First, there was the Unlock Michigan protest. More than 1,000 cars draped in Trump flags surrounded the Michigan state capitol in April of 2020, demanding not just an end to the state's COVID restrictions, but also to get rid of Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. They called her a tyrant for imposing those restrictions, and they compared her to Hitler. President Trump himself supported their cause 2 days after that protest, tweeting, "Liberate Michigan." Conservatives and conservative media took up the cause, repeatedly calling Whitmer an authoritarian and a tyrant.
Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, not impressive, has imposed what might be the most authoritarian restrictions on daily life in the history of this country.
Sort of like an out-of-control tyrant.
I'm saying hello from the police state of Michigan, where I live under the martial law of Gretchen Whitmer.
And then 2 weeks later, things just escalated. Hundreds of protesters, many of them heavily armed, rushed the Michigan state capitol. They chanted, "Let us in," and demanded to be let onto the House floor. They were trying to put pressure on Michigan state lawmakers who were voting to let Governor Whitmer's emergency declaration expire. This is a photo that a Michigan state senator took of armed protesters yelling down at them during that vote from the balcony. Again, these protests were both against COVID restrictions and against Governor Whitmer herself. President Trump responded to this round of armed protests by calling the protesters, quote, "very good people." Then, a few months after that, the FBI foiled an alleged plot by two conservative Michigan militia groups to kidnap and possibly kill Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Starting in June, the groups had begun tactical training, firearms training, and combat drills. They learned how to use improvised explosive devices. They conducted surveillance on Governor Whitmer's residences, and ultimately they meticulously planned to kidnap Governor Whitmer at her vacation home. They thought they would avoid local law enforcement by blowing up the bridge near her home and potentially escaping by boat. They called Governor Whitmer a tyrant. They wanted to hogtie her and take pictures like it was a drug bust. Again, the FBI detailed that whole plot in public in October of 2020. Here was President Trump talking about it earlier this month.
As another example, the sting that they did involving Gretchen Whitmer was fake, just like those who instigated January 6th. It was a fake deal. Fake. It was a fake deal. Gretchen Whitmer was in less danger than the people sitting in this room right now.
Today, two of the men central to that very real plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Whitmer were convicted for their crimes. They face up to life in prison for them. Actions do, in fact, have consequences. But if this whole thing, the storming of the state capitol, the extremist plans for violence, President Trump claiming it was all fake, if that all feels familiar to you, you aren't crazy. The storming of the Michigan state capitol and the plot against the governor there were in many ways the ideological precursors to January 6th. The first real manifestation of the idea that if a civil servant doesn't do what you want, you should go physically threaten or harm them. We saw that on January 6th with the chance of hang Mike Pence. We saw that again earlier this month when an armed man tried to attack the Cincinnati FBI field office after the FBI raided President Trump's Florida home. Everyone from the judge who signed the search warrant in that case to the FBI agents involved, all of them are facing threats of violence from the right. Even county-level election officials across the country are facing consistent physical threats these days for the crime of trying to fairly administer our elections. And then tonight, we just got the news that the IRS is launching a full security review of all of its facilities nationwide because of just how many threats that the IRS is getting. It is all concerning, and it is worth remembering that Donald Trump is continuing to fan all of the flames. But it is also worth remembering that America is still a country of laws.